Hello, hello, I'm Beth the Builder, and this week's Honest Guide to Home Repair is installing trim. So we're here on my porch, and I want to install trim at the bottom, so baseboards. And there were baseboards in here before I redid my floor, but they were like water damaged and gross, and I threw them away. So I was like, future Beth can deal with what to do about baseboards in this porch. Okay, I got this trim that I'm gonna use for free from a friend of my mom's whose dad had a carpentry business that went out of business, and then they had all this, like a garage full of carpentry trim and wood and miscellaneous things. So I got to go rummage through a giant dumpster full of wood. Tried to be, relatively conservative about what I took because I don't want a garage full of random trim pieces and carpentry things. Even though that sounds awesome and then you can just pull it out and be like, I have that thing. I don't need a garage full of that. So this is about 2 1/4 inch trim. I don't think it's actually like base molding trim, but I don't care, okay? You can't look a gift horse in the mouth. So this is 2 1/4, and then I have about another 3/4 inch piece on the top that I'm gonna put to kind of raise the height of it, because some standard baseboard moldings are like 3 1/4, 5 1/2, 7 inch, etc. So there are some standards, but I mean, no one's gonna be going around measuring the trim in my house. And first of all, it was free, okay? And second of all, it's just a porch, it doesn't matter. And if it goes really poorly, I guess it's again, a future Beth problem. But I have high hopes because I've been practicing angle things, okay? 45-degree angles. It's important if you're going to be doing trim work, okay? And obviously, like, the tool for this job that would be awesome to have, it's at the top of my list of things I want, is a big old miter saw that would cut super, super cleanly. You can change the angle that it's cutting. That would be the way to do it. I don't have that, so I'm gonna use just a back saw and a miter box. And I'll show you my setup for that. It's a super, super simple tool, obviously a saw, but a miter box is definitely a handy thing to have if you can't drop $150, $200 on a big giant miter saw. So I have measured everything in my porch, so I know all the corner pieces that I need. So I practiced on some scrap wood angle cuts because it's a skill, okay? And you don't want to mess it up on the actual trim pieces, especially if you've bought expensive like crown molding and really, really giant, thick, nice, maple or oak baseboards or something. You don't want to mess that up, okay? That would suck. So practice first, measure the places accurately, and then cut. And measure twice, cut once. All right, this is important. Alrighty, so let's do it. Okay, miter box, back saw. So a back saw is rigid, so it doesn't flex when you're cutting, like a hacksaw or a jigsaw even, or something like that. So this is rigid, and it goes into these pre-angled slots. So 90 degrees, 22.5, 45 degrees. 45 is going to be probably the most common cut that you're going to make, especially for trim. When cutting trim, there's a lot of things that feel opposite to how you think it will go. Okay, you have a piece of trim and you want to just stick it in here and chop it off. Oh, but guess what? Like, that's going to be wrong. Okay, do you see why this is wrong? So this is a 45-degree angle. You can put it on here. It's 45 degrees, but it's not for wall trim. So this would be, like 90 degrees for like around a window or like door trim or something like that. That's a pretty good 45-degree angle. It's not, however, the kind of cuts you need for baseboards. So all the cuts that I'm going to make are going to be for inside corners. This is an inside corner, and this is an outside corner. Outside. Okay, so all my cuts are inside corners, and yeah, there's just a lot of opposites for how you would cut this. In my opinion, it's opposite. So I'm cutting this for the right side of my corner of my wall. So this is the piece I want to cut for the right side of my wall. So again, feels opposite. Your saw goes in, 45-degree angle to the left, okay? And your right side of your piece of wood is gonna be the scrap, is gonna be the offcut. And then this is the actual piece. So then it goes together in my corner, like so. Also, it's important to realize for molding and trim and crown molding, all this fancy stuff, that usually, unless it's just square, straight, nothing fancy trim, there will be a top and there will be a bottom. This is the bottom side of this kind of trim. So this side is wide and this side you can see is much more narrow. That's why I did practice cuts, because this is exact same kind of trim as I'm going to install, except it's just a little bit more plain. It doesn't have any molding in the middle. Overall, very simple. What I did for cutting these also was I stuck a block of wood here and then just a random scrap piece here to make it square, and then I used just a simple clamp to clamp this all into place so that it stays upright like this, because that's how you want to cut it. Anyway, that is just to keep this all in place, because you don't really want to have to be holding this when you're hand sawing, because, you know, it takes more work than just having a big old fancy miter saw. Alrighty, so I am going to set up my first few pieces to cut, and then hopefully it should all be pretty simple from there. Okay, so I have all my pieces cut, both the main 2 1/4 inch piece and then this top trim piece that's gonna go on top here. It just adds, you know, a little bit of height to it that it otherwise wouldn't have. I'm pretty pleased with how it went, honestly. Practicing was totally the way to go, because then I felt way more confident and way more like I know what I'm doing when I went to actually do the final cuts for everything. So yeah, I mean, that's just how it goes with something you're not super familiar with. Is you have to practice and do that thing some more to then know how to do it, and know how to do it more efficiently and more quickly and accurately and all the things. So yeah, once I got into it and kind of like fell into a groove of how to cut everything, it was really easy. So you can definitely get away with just a saw and a miter box. I mean, that's all I had and it went pretty smoothly. So it's not the fancy tools that makes a handy person or makes a project go well. It's the experience and the person using it and just kind of, you know, trying that thing. You can have all the fanciest equipment in the world and still be like a garbage DIYer, like a bad handy person. So fancy tools do not equal a well-made project or an accurately made project. So as much as people who just drop money on things might want to try and convince you, or like ads want to like convince you that you need all the fanciest, newest, bestest things in the world to do that thing, it's not true. You can do a lot with very little. I'm going to install all of my trim with my new Master corded, it's both a staple gun and a nail gun. So I got this as a gift because I don't have an air compressor, which would be like the super crazy powered, awesome nail guns, which would be amazing, but this was probably half the price and I can use it without an air compressor, which is awesome. So that is what I'm going to use. Obviously you can get away with just using like drilling pilot holes and using finishing nails and a hammer to put your trim into place. Obviously you'd want to drill pilot holes if you're going to do it that way, because it will end up cracking the trim otherwise. But I'm going to use my nail gun. Pretty excited about it. It's very satisfying to use. Alrighty, so let's get nailing. Okay, so all my trim is installed, and overall, like, I'm pretty freaking happy with it. I feel like for my first time ever installing trim, and installing trim that I got for free, which is maybe not the most ideal thing to work with, it went pretty well. I'm pretty pleased with how it looks. There's some seams I have to contend with just because obviously I couldn't choose the lengths that it was cut into. So I just had like standard like 8-foot pieces or something. The one thing I'm disappointed with is my stupid nail gun. So because of the kind that it is, it's not a pneumatic, which means you connect to an air compressor. It's like got a hammer trigger to it that forces the nail into it. It ended up leaving little dents in certain places, not always, but in certain places. For whatever reason, I don't know why it did that. So I'm not super happy with that because I spent a lot of time like, wanting to cut the pieces correctly, and that went really well. And then to have my nail gun kind of like damage certain places was kind of disappointing. I imagine nicer, pneumatic, fancy nail guns would not do that as quickly or at all. I don't know. I don't have one. So that's a little bit disappointing, but I think I can cover a few places, and if you just glance at it, like, you're probably not going to notice. I mean, I don't know how many people spend time like staring at trim in their homes or even going into another person's home. It's stuff that like I notice because I'm here and, I care about how my home looks, but most people are probably not going to notice it as quickly. Okay, be sure to check out the description below where you can support me, like my PayPal where you can fund a Beth the Builder project, as well as all the social media places where you can find more Beth the Builder. So be sure to check that out. Otherwise, I have new videos every Friday, and thanks for watching.